Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my channel, the Sideline Podcast with Coach Steve. And of course, this is Coach Steve. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this out. If anybody ever wants to get out here and talk any type of football, basketball, track and field, more willing to talk. And, let's keep this rolling. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. If you guys want to be a part of it, let me know and enjoy the channel. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sideline Podcast with Coach Steve. And of course, this is Coach Steve. Got my third guy on the show in a row. We're on a roll here. I have Coach Klee with me. Never met Coach Klee, but this is what social media does, especially during quarantine times. We can meet with different coaches and talk some ball. It's cheaper therapy than going to talk to somebody. So I have Coach with me. I'm going to have him introduce himself, and he's going to give a nice presentation. So Coach, take it away. Let us know about yourself, where you're from, and then we'll get right to the meat and potatoes of it.
All right. Hi, guys. My name's Brian Klee. I'm defensive coordinator at Coloma, Michigan. I'm in my fifth year working with head coach is Joe Stevens, great guy to work for. We got a great staff that I've been able to be a part of. Our JV head coach might actually be the best coach on our staff. Kind of joke he hates soccer and stuff, but if he got put in charge of a soccer team, he'd find a way to make that team the best on the field. Probably also the most yellow cards and stuff like that. It just brings a lot of toughness and really helps develop our young men. The other assistants, Todd Smith is an alumni at our school here. He has really helped improve the play of our defensive line, offensive line, work with him with the line guys. And then our linebacker coach is Tim Reb, and we've made some improvements big time on defense from year one that I was here. One of the biggest issues that we had was defending what I call the full house T. Others call it Michigan T, power T. Couple other different names that it'll have, and it's just it's a pain in the butt to defend in my experience. We'll get into why that is. At least here in the state of Michigan, it has been very popular, and it regularly sees deep success into our state playoffs. It includes several teams that compete for and win state championships as high as the Division III level. Watched a semifinal game between Muskegon High School and Edwardsburg High School, I believe back in 2016. And Edwardsburg, they struggled against Muskegon, but so does everybody. It's a very, and then the following year, Edwardsburg at the Division IV level, they were a little smaller for the state playoffs. The following year, they ended up making it to the state championship game and actually winning it with Coach Kevin Bartz there. So as far as, I guess, what the full house T is, for people familiar with the double tight, double wing, it's slightly similar to that in the sense that it's 32 personnel. There are 3 true running backs on the field all the time and 2 true tight ends. For people familiar with the wing T formation, there's no split end side. There's also typically no wing side. The teams we see, they'll get a wing involved here and there. If they get anything further from playing one of those running backs as a wing, typically we feel that's a good spot for the defense. So the big difference with it is, compared to wing T, is it's truly a balanced attack from a schematic standpoint. It's always going to have a trap fake, a power fake, and then a quarterback fake, and then eventually they'll start to run a counter. So there's 4 ball carriers coming out of the backfield, all with their hands over top of the ball, cross up, carrying out fakes, and you don't know which ball carrier has the ball, so you kind of have to honor all those fakes, and it really becomes a matter of getting your guys on defense to be really disciplined with their keys. As far as us as a program, Coach Stevens took over in 2015, and I believe the program had 4 one-win seasons prior to us coaching together. Those first 2 years, we struggled against the full house T big time. Gave up almost 44 points a game to it. Gave up 37 points overall per game on defense. So we were not great on defense. It included a very embarrassing 68 points allowed on 9 touchdowns. 7 of those were traps to a fullback, and the first 5, the fullback we were playing that particular game was pretty solid, but the backup fullback and then the third string fullback scored touchdowns. Our guys didn't know where the ball was. We didn't have them prepared as coaches. So going into the 2017 season, we knew we had to make some big time changes. Our top opponent year in, year out is Constantine High School, coached by Sean Griffith. Really quality program, has just strong, tough kids that get some discipline with what they're doing, execute at a high level. And so we're trying to close the distance between them. We chose to become an odd front, and more importantly, I think we coached up technique on defense quite a bit. And since then, we're at least 500 against the full house T. Instead of giving up 43 a game, we're down to giving up 25 game against the T. Overall on defense, we are averaging giving up 29 a game, which is it's a definite improvement from the 37 that we were in our first 2 years. And the best part is, from 2016, when we gave up 68 to Constantine, we turned around the following year and actually shut them out. They were coming into our week 5 matchup. I believe they were 3-1. They had about 400 some yards per game and close to 40 points a game, and we actually ended up shutting them out that year. First, I guess I'll talk about the trap play that they run. To me, that's what really makes the full house T distinct. Is they're going to find a way to establish their fullback trap play. It's very similar to me to an option offense establishing the fullback dive. They need that interior threat to get their offense going, and they're going to do everything in their power to make that trap play going. And one of the dads that was helping us out in my second year as a coach is like, oh, they only run 4 plays. It should be pretty easy to stop. And the problem is if you got your linebackers strictly keying the backfield with all those fakes, they're going to play slow. So the trap play is forcing everybody on the defense to respect an inside threat. And what they do their trap play is pretty standard. I guess what's different, they'll trap everything from a 2-eye we've got on film, them trapping a 2-eye against some other teams, all the way out to we've got on film a T team trapping a 6 technique defensive end outside linebacker type guy. And so the center and guard, tackle, tight end at the point of attack, they're all down blocking, they're getting on walls, and they're leaving that first guy past the center to be trapped by the backside guard. And I guess just describing the play, trying to make this into a visual thing for you, you don't know where the damn ball is. And somebody who's big, strong, and fast, like the fullback we were playing a couple of years ago, our linebacker literally brushed his shoulders. Our safety was spying, and he's working out to power. That's how we had it schemed up, and we don't defend it with guys responsible for a specific threat of the offense anymore. But our safety brushed shoulders with the fullback, doesn't even attempt to tackle, and by the time anyone on the defense knows where the ball is, the fullback's got a full head of steam right down the middle in the heart of the defense. And they just find a way to create a crease, and it's an effective play because they only need to get really about 3 blocks. If they get the back block by the center or the double team by the center and guard on the play side, they get the backside linebacker picked off, and then they get the kick out on the trap. Our 3 techniques kind of knew what they were doing when we were playing it. But bottom line is they didn't continue to work inside because of the power fake that's going on outside of it. So that fullback's up through the A gaps, and meanwhile there's a power fake going on in the B to C gap area that they're trying to get the offense to the defense, they're trying to get them to run lateral while they end up hitting the crease. And it's just a pain in the butt because you'll get two guys knowing where the heck the ball is, and the other 9 guys are running to either the power fake or the quarterback keep fake, while the fullback is going completely untouched. And when you're facing a big, strong kid, that makes him bigger, stronger, and even faster. So on to power, how they complement that. So all the time they're establishing this trap game and trying to get the defense to overcommit to that inside trap threat. The threat of power is constantly there. They're putting whoever that defensive tackle is, whatever technique you have him playing, whether he's a 2-eye, a 3 technique, a 4-eye, a 4 technique, 5 technique, they're putting him in a bind on, if I squeeze, I'm going to take away trap. If I close down, trap's going to disappear. If I penetrate, though, trap is going to go big. Well, penetration really helps at the point of attack against power when you're trying to defend it. If I can split that double team as a down lineman, I'm going to do good things for my team against power. So what it comes down to, power, they're typically trying to attack C-gap. And the teams we play, they put their bigger running backs at the halfback spots, because those guys really are taking on the role of what maybe a fullback does in like an I formation, 21, 20 personnel type team, where those guys are going to be kicking out the first man on the tight end typically, and they're going to be the lead blocker, and they're the bigger, stronger, faster kids on the team. Meanwhile, they're getting their wall of down blocks and then pulling a guard around up to the linebacker level. All the while, you got the trap fake going on inside. And it might seem like, man, they just hang out in one formation. There's only a couple plays. Well, that guy at the point of attack, that D lineman, that 4 or 5 technique typically for us could be a 3 technique. He's got to be disciplined with the blocks that are going on in front of him. If he's got a down block, he's got to squeeze that and look to spill trap. If he's got a double team, he's got to recognize that and feel that and fight the double team. He's got to distinguish the difference between the blocking as opposed to what's going on in the backfield. Otherwise, he's going to be lost because he's not going to know the difference. The fakes are just happening too fast and pretty hard to describe without you seeing it, but the fakes just happen too fast. And before you know it, power's going to the end zone on you while you got 3 or 4 guys tackling the fullback. And then the worst part about defending their powers, the T teams we see are again Constantine, coached by Sean Griffith, and then Delton Kellogg, coached by Coach Bates. They'll block up power. I've got at least 6 different ways that they block up power on our scout cards, and I'm sure there's more that I just haven't recognized. They'll have the tight end and tackle double team 4 or 5 technique, and they're kicking out the end man. They'll have their tackle and tight end base block at the point of attack, and then instead of the halfbacks kicking out the end man on the line, they'll put the halfback up on the linebacker while the guards wrap into the other linebacker, and our guys will be working lateral to the play, and they'll run right into the ball carrier. But because the ball carrier is so disciplined with carrying out their fakes, they got the double layer technique that the T coaches talk about, where both hands are over the ball. They go into the end zone and nobody knows where the heck the ball is until typically the ball's in the darn end zone and the ref's tweeting the whistle. So trap and power is what I guess their bread and butter is, and especially attack and C-gap with the power play. And then after all that, so the first thought by a lot of coaches when they first see it is, all right, everyone's going to squeeze inside. We're going to cancel all the interior gaps. And then they come with the quarterback key play, which it's slow developing, but the fact that all the guys are trying on the defense, trying to find the ball with the trap fake, with the power fake, all they have to do is get the force defender to take a second and hesitate, peeking inside, seeing it if the ball's maybe spilling out to him while all the other defenders are fitting inside, and then the quarterback puts that ball on his back hip and circles the entire defense. Absolutely frustrating. I can't count the number of times I've been coaching. This is my 18th season now, and we've seen some sort of every year that I've coached, we've seen some variation of a T team, no matter where I've coached here in Michigan, and can't count the number of times that it'll be a critical third down or fourth down, and you're yelling at your force player, whether it's a corner in a cover 2 situation, an outside linebacker, if you're 4-4 team, you're yelling at them, the keep is coming. Keep your outside shoulder free. And sure enough, the kid's going to step in, look to play the power that they've seen 8, 9, 10 times prior to that. And the T coach has timed it up. It's a perfect situation. Your force player ends up peeking inside, looks for the power fake, and before you know it, the quarterback is around the end. And it doesn't matter what the offense is. Anytime you've got 4 threats on an offense that all can run the ball, it's challenging. To me, that it's even more challenging when that T quarterback happens to be one of the better athletes on the team. Typically, those 2 halfbacks are the bigger, stronger, faster, better athletes. But then all of a sudden that quarterback is just as athletic as those guys, sometimes maybe more, and he's there because he can throw as opposed to the halfbacks. And he's keeping the ball around the end. And they do a great job of staying, engaged in a fake. They'll ride that fake. They have no intention of giving it ever on their powers when they're calling their keep play, but they'll hold on to. I'm convinced of this, that they do it this way. They'll continue to ride that power fake until they get that corner or that outside linebacker who's playing force to take just one little step inside, and by that point, if he's an equal athlete to that quarterback, he's not going to be able to run him down. The quarterback ends up getting the edge late. And the rest of the defense is respecting all the inside fakes. We'll get our inside linebackers to hesitate for a second, trying to decide, does the power have the play? Does the power have the ball or not? And that gives them enough that the quarterback will go in untouched way too often. So the question is, how do you go about? Oh, and then my bad, coach. The counter play. After you get all that flow to one side, they'll come back with counters. So and then the counter to some extent, the counter ends up being better because you got misdirection, you got the fullback, you got a halfback, and you got the quarterback all flowing to one side. And then they come back with essentially power blocking because they got their double teams, their down blocks, their wall of down blocks happening. They got their kick out, they got their wrapper. Most teams we see typically do it with the tight end as the wrap guy on their counters because they're in a nice tight T formation. And then they come back and gash you with misdirection. And guys are running to the fakes on the other side of the field, and before you know it, the ball pops loose. And then the last part, so the most frustrating part probably, say you do get the trap defended, you get the power defended, you get the keep defended, you don't get fooled by misdirection, you end up getting a 50, 55 runs if it's a 60-play game, and then they throw the ball 5 times, and the secondaries, they're following all these run fakes, they get walled to sleep, coming up, making plays, helping out with the run fit some, and then they go with some sort of play action pass. Their favorite play action pass concept that I've seen every T team use is what we call keep pass. They got one route is going to be a flag or post corner route, and then the other route is going to be something to the flats. And if your defensive secondary is not disciplined with their keys, they don't have their eyes locked in. For us, we're typically playing cover 2 against these guys. If our corner doesn't have eyes on that near back, and that near back releases, and he doesn't respect that as a pass route as opposed to a block, that guy's going to be open. If the safety's a little too aggressive downhill, that tight end might get a little bit of get a step on him, and you cover from that. The best, and then the other thing they have is boot passes. So it combines that misdirection element with play action passing, and it can be a real pain to, the entire offense gets flowing one way, quarterback comes back, you didn't have your defensive backs disciplined enough, and they're throwing wide open touchdown passes to guys with no one anywhere near them, no one within 10 yards. I mean, just about anybody. They don't even have to have a great quarterback for that quarterback to look really, really good. And so now defending all that stuff, we'll get to that. Any questions, Coach?
No, you might answer them for me, because I'm sitting here thinking, how do you drill your linebackers to read that stuff? Because, they got so much misdirection. We all know linebackers' eyes, when they start peeking one way, that type of offense is going to go the other. So you might get into that. That's my big thing, because when my time coaching defense, when you coach a wing T team or a team that's going to do a lot of misdirection, how do you teach those linebackers to stay at home and not get their eyes going one way and just get their body instincts to go?
That's a great question. That's what we probably struggled with the most. Our first 2 years was getting our guys to just lock in on one key. We tried to initially coach our linebackers to key offensive linemen. They were struggling with that after our first game against the T, so then we switched to the backfield. And as a coaching staff, we screwed our linebackers that first year, because we wavered with what we were going to let them key. Our thought process was, they're peeking in the backfield anyway, so let's key the backfield. And I think you can pull that off. I've been at one place where the defensive coordinator I was working under, he did have his so like if I'm keying what he did, if you want to key backfield, what he did, both linebackers are keying the halfbacks. If your halfback comes at you in any way, shape, or form, you go at him, you go fit the first open window on your side. If your halfback would go away from you, so if I'm standing I'm the right inside linebacker, I'm keying that halfback goes to my left, my eyes are now going to go to the fullback, and I'm going to fit on that trap by the fullback. And if that fullback's lead blocking, I can scrape over the top and go help out to the point of attack. What we did year 3 was we insisted that our linebackers key the guards against these T teams. And I've been hesitant to share that a lot on some of my YouTube channel and stuff. But bottom line, I'm pretty damn sure that the coaches that we play against, the year after we shut out Constantine, Coach Griff had he started running fullback dive instead of trap. So there was no guard pull, which slowed our linebackers down just a little bit, because they keyed that guard pull really, really well in 2017, and we still key it well. But 2018, the guard didn't pull. Our linebacker was a half step slow, and one of their dives ended up going for a 13-yard touchdown. But I think it's getting those guys to trust one and only one key. One other thing we do to help all our guys out, we do our inside run period. There's never a football in our inside run period, no matter the offense we see. It just doesn't exist in the inside run. A kid will walk over with the ball, and I'll just take the ball from him and throw it as far as I can, which I'm a lineman by as a former player, so the ball doesn't go further than about 25 yards, but I throw it far enough away that it's not in the inside run period anymore. And then even our team period, the first 2 days of the week, our team period, we find like just those little Nerf footballs and stuff that we'll hand it to the guy in the huddle who actually has the ball, but we make sure all our guys on our scout look are hiding that ball, and again, it's small enough that they can squeeze it in their hand, so we don't have to teach them the layered handoff like the T teams do. So taking away the possibility of even finding the ball, I think that's helped us tremendously with our linebackers and getting them to be really disciplined with making sure they're keying that guard. That guard's either down blocking our nose, or that guard's pulling. And when they do something else, our kids are probably a half step slower, but you got to stop a team's bread and butter, to me, to have a shot against them. So Defensively, really believe that regardless of what your scheme is, it should be flexible. As much as we gear up to make sure we're stopping the tee, we're now a 3-4 structure, and everything we do, it's flexible enough to match up against most offensive schemes that we're going to see. When we're fitting the tee, we are trying to kind of teach our kids as much about the offense as possible, and the idea that it's relying on some form of a wall of down blocks and a kick out defender. So as a defense, we need to create gaps in that wall, either by ripping underneath the down blocks that are coming, or squeezing the air if we're on the outside of a down block, or splitting a double team if we get that. And the other thing that we really strongly believe in is that we're going to spill the ball, and we're going to go kill it on the perimeter, because it allows us to have very consistent run fits. I'll make sure I really point that out, because I think that's what's made us better. Our linebacker on the play side can't tell you the difference between trap and power, and to us it doesn't matter. He's fitting both of those plays almost identically, and again, that lets our guys just play fast and a little bit more downhill. And then the other thing we do, we as a base, we're kind of a matchup, two-read cover, two-read quarters type team in a two-high shell, and that also lets us play those linebackers extra aggressive and get over the midline, because we know we'll have defensive backs in place to play cutback. So what I mean by those consistent run fits, trap and power, the backfield, there's no difference to anyone on the defense. There's basically no difference if you're looking at the backfield. There's something that diving into the A gaps with the fullback. There's something coming to the C gap with the power fake, and then the quarterback's trying to circle the defense every single snap. So it's recognizing the block that you are getting from the offensive lineman across from you. That is the most important thing for our front seven. We'll talk about fit and trap first, and then I'll talk about how our fit on power ends up being almost the same. And again, our play side linebacker, even our backside linebacker, probably can't tell you the difference between trap and power, especially early on. I'm sure some of the older guys that have seen things by the time they're seniors, I'm guessing they probably can end up telling you the difference between the two to some extent. But for the most part, they're not going to be able to tell you mid-play what the heck they're defending. So we're a 3-4 front. Our outside linebackers, we're going to walk them up, and we play them as 6 or 9 techniques. Depends on what we have inside of them. Either they're a 6 technique when we have 3 techniques inside of them, and they're playing a 9 technique if we line up with 4 or 5 techniques. What the biggest thing with the out front does, and we'll start with this part of the run fit first, by putting a nose, a 0 technique on that center, you are, by the rules of how the offense blocks, you are kind of demanding that nose gets a double team from the offense. At the very least, if the guard towards the point of attack is not down blocking that nose, to us, that center is not going to win a one-on-one block against their nose. And now we've been extremely blessed with our noses the past 3 years, and even this upcoming year, we got a nice, big, strong 300-plus pound kid that plays there, James, and he's good at moving side to side and whatnot. I think you can get away with also having that nose being a lot of movements as opposed to being like a 2-gap type nose like we've done for the most part the past couple of years. But putting that guy at 0 technique to really kind of control both A gaps, and most importantly the A gap towards the point of attack. The trap by the fullback has to bend just a little bit more when you got a 0 technique there. So he demands that double team. What that does on the backside, whether it's trap or power, when that linebacker sees that guard go away, he's initially going to fit that opposite A. Well, that nose has already filled the opposite A, so he can continue to scrape to open window. If you go to my YouTube channel, I've got film of that linebacker from the backside actually making the tackle all the way out in the alley on a trap that got spilled. On a couple occasions that ends up happening. And then the next key part about the trap, besides
taking away that A gap with the nose, getting your backside inside linebacker over the top and becoming an extra guy, matching that guard because that guard's pulling and essentially making a new gap to the point of attack on trap and power is the kick out block that guard has. When we gave up 7 touchdowns in 2016, all of them stayed on course. Our guy that was getting trapped didn't know he was getting trapped and didn't close that interior gap that pulling guard was making. So we're spilling that our up front, just everything that we do up front with our defensive linemen, especially our 4 or 5 technique type guys, our 3 technique type guys. They're striking that offensive tackle as the 4 or 5 technique. That tackle's trying to inside release, so they're squeezing him down. As soon as their shoulders turn perpendicular to the line of scrimmage, they know that they're coming off of that offensive tackle's butt, and they're looking for that guard coming to trap them, and they're going to attack it with their outside shoulder and take away that inside gap. If the fullback's really, really disciplined, that kid's running himself into a tackle and possibly a tackle for loss if he's really doing a good job of using a dent technique like a lot of coaches are talking about with their line of scrimmage defenders, where they're turning the circle around that guard and working upfield. And then if the fullback is a little bit more of an athletic guy and has good vision, he's going to spill himself out wider, and that's where the linebacker pursuit becomes big. Our play side linebacker, he's looking for first. He's keying his guard. He sees down block. He starts downhill. If he gets his 4 or 5 technique closing that window right in front of him, he just takes one little side step and it'll fit right off of it. What will happen is sometimes our 9 technique, if that tight end down blocks, our 9 technique will be the first guy fitting right off of that spill. And then our inside linebacker scrapes just a little wider. And all the time we have our backside linebacker getting over the top against all this. And I think the one thing that's gone from us giving up touchdown after touchdown on trap to trap. I mean, we still get trapped up front. We still get creased for, first downs. The big difference between 2 years ago and the past 3 years is our corner on the backside. My defensive coordinator, my head coach, my defensive back coach, Joe Stevens, he does a great job of his corner is keying that near halfback. If that halfback's out wide, he knows it's pass. If that halfback goes away on trap or power, that corner starts searching for the next threat, which most of the time the next threat ends up being that fullback, which lets our inside linebackers play real fast, get to the point of attack, get over the top, and get to where the ball should be spilled by our guys up front. When you get to power, our fit is the same out of our linebackers. Our play side linebacker, instead of seeing the guard down block in a closed gap by his 4 or 5 technique, he's got an open gap. We try to coach our guys, hey, trust that open gap, run through it, see if you snipe something before it gets out to the C gap. Meanwhile, that backside linebacker is still scraping, and he's looking for a first open window. If we fit everything, how we're coaching our guys to fit it based off their keys, he's going to be scraping all the way out to D gap and be a guy in the alley. Our nose is still getting a double, so he's fighting, staying those A gaps. Our 4 or 5 technique, he's going to draw a double team from their tackle and tight end in most situations because they need to establish that C gap. And what that does, why that's a bonus to us, I guess is an odd front advantage in my opinion. Our safety is keying that tight end. When that tight end starts to double team that 4 or 5 technique, and that 5 technique does a nice job of fighting it, it keeps the C gap a little bit wider than the halfback really wants it. And it also lets our safety trigger and become part of the run fit, be a bonus guy in the run fit. And then now the guy that needs to be the spill guy is our 9 technique outside linebacker. As that halfback comes at him, he's going to squeeze that tight end's down block. When his shoulders, again, are perpendicular line of scrimmage, he's going to come real hard inside, take his outside shoulder, rip it through the inside half of the halfback's block, and get the ball to spill to the perimeter, or he's running himself into the tackle if the ball carrier is committed to trying to cram it up into the C gap there. So that's how we fit trap and power. largely the same in both situations. And I won't spend time talking about too much film or anything like that, but it's big time. That all of it fits together for the trap. I think the biggest part is get that nose to be in the A gap and make sure your 4 or 5 technique is it's either trap or double team. Everything we do in his indie session that week of practice is what we call three-man drill or 4-man drill, where they're either getting a reach block or a double team if it's a 4-man drill, or they're getting trapped. And that's the only 2 things that they're doing in their indie time to make sure that ball goes out wide. They get the ball spilled, and we teach them to run the circle. So after they get inside the guard and they know the flow has gone past them, they continue to get back outside because that's where the ball carrier is going. And now we get multiple hats to the ball making the tackle. And then, sorry, Coach.
No worries.
Let me skip ahead a little bit here. So after that trap and power, the next thing is all right, you're committing all these guys inside to the trap and the power. How do you go about stopping the keep? And again, to me, the answer is you need to keep on fitting that very similar to the way that you fit the power and the trap. And what I mean by that is you can't ask your guys to distinguish the difference based on what they see from the backfield. They got to recognize that their fit based on their key is going to stay the same. And I think that goes back to your question earlier, Coach, about the linebackers. Like, how do you get those guys to be disciplined with their eyes? A guard's down block means I'm fitting straight ahead for our guys. That guard's double teaming that nose. I'm fitting that open B gap until that B gap gets closed by a guy in front of me. If it doesn't get closed, I'm going to continue to fit it until I know all the flow has gone past it. Otherwise, we're going to get creased in that B gap. That backside linebacker, he knows every single time he gets that guard going away, he's over the top looking for opposite A, and he keeps on scraping until he sees an open window, and he's got to go fill that open window. Our outside linebacker, our 9 techniques, they get a tight end down block. They're going to squeeze that no matter what, and they're looking to spill the halfback that's coming, even though keep is eventually coming. Like, all our guys understand that keep's eventually coming. Well, if my key is telling me that I got to go fit power, if my key's telling me I need to fit trap, I got to go fit that play, because I'm not going to know the difference until the ball's in the end zone and the other team's marching band is striking up their instruments and playing their fight song. So on keep, our outside backer is still going to spill, and then this is where running the circle for that guy becomes really, really important. If he rips inside that kick out block, which is turning into a log block, and he knocks that kick out block back a little bit, a lot of times with where the quarterback's carrying out the fake and whatnot, that'll cause that quarterback to maybe belly just a little bit further, which gives the guys in the secondary, the backside linebacker, a little time to show up to the keep, because the keep is going to happen just a touch slower. And the big key difference, I guess, on making sure keep doesn't go for a touchdown and circle the defense ends up being, does that force defender keep his outside shoulder free? He's got to recognize whatever flow's coming at him, he's keying that near halfback. All right, that halfback comes up, and he's blocking that outside linebacker, whether it's a kick out or whether it's a log. He knows another threat is probably going to come to him, and he's got to make sure whatever that threat is, typically on keep, it's going to be the backside guard pulling around. I got to make sure I take that guy on near the line of scrimmage, and most importantly, my inside shoulder is what's got to make contact with him. I got to win to the outside, so that way that ball by the quarterback has to cut back up to the inside where teammates are going to be able to pursue it and make sure it gets tackled. And probably my favorite clip would be check out my YouTube channel to get some of this, and I'm sure Coach is going to make this available somehow. my favorite clip, our outside linebacker, we do mix in calls where we'll squeeze the entire front if we feel like we're worried about trap and power, and we're still good against the offense. Our outside linebacker was on a squeeze. He ends up inside the tight end. He spilled the halfback, and because he's inside that halfback and he starts to run his circle, and he's as long as he knows he gets inside one block, if he continues upfield and he can pick off now the pulling guard, and he picks off a power fake, and the quarterback wants none of it. We've got a bunch of yellow jerseys because the play was slow developing to get going. We get a bunch of yellow jerseys, white jerseys, whatever. We get a bunch of our guys pursuing the ball. We're going to make the tackle because we've destroyed the other parts of the run play, and we now know where the ball is. And that's how we go about stopping their key play. So now stopping the counter play. To us, if you get your guys really good at reading their key and committing to what that key is telling them to do, counter actually lets us get more hats to the ball if we're disciplined with our eyes. Power and counter, again, kind of I guess the theme that you should be picking up is we're going to fit based off the key that we're reading in front of us. And power and counter to our inside linebackers, there is no difference with it. To our nose and our 5 technique at the point of attack, there is no difference between power and counter. To our backside 4 technique, there's not really a difference between power and counter. He's striking the offensive tackle typically as a 4 technique, and he's keying the guard inside him out of the corner of his eye. That guard pulls away. He's going to try and rip off the block by that tackle, that scoop block or cut block, and try and hip pocket it from behind. Our outside backers are 9 techniques. No difference, power and counter. There's a kick out coming. Instead of the halfback, it happens to be the guard, but I got a tight end down block. I'm expecting a kick out block of some sort. I'm going to squeeze that tight end down block. I'm going to find that kick out block. I'm going to rip inside of it and attempt to make the tackle if the ball carrier commits inside, or the ball carrier is spilling himself, or we've kept our inside linebackers clean. We've kept a cornerback clean. And by the time that the ball's spilled, our safety can distinguish, hey, that tight end, he turned his shoulders, he's double teaming the 4 or 5 technique, I can be downhill. And again, why I think we can get more numbers to the ball on counter, provided our eyes are disciplined. The backside tight end, a lot of times for the T teams, just to make that hip pocket pursuit by that backside 4 or 5 technique a little harder, that backside tight end ends up pulling. So the safety, I'm going to say this, and it's going to come back to bite us, but I have yet to see a T team pull that tight end and then run play action pass back to where that tight end pulled from. That tight end pulls, it's a run play. I go follow it like I'm a linebacker as a safety and get over the point of attack, and I'm a bonus guy. They really cannot get me blocked over there if I'm that backside safety. If they execute really, really well, they can get all the other guys on the counter block, but that backside safety, they are not calling that counter expecting that guy to show up. And can he make a tackle for anything better than a 3-yard gain? Probably not. But if you're forcing them 3 yards, at some point you're just trying to make them execute more plays than they're able to execute. All it takes defensively is getting them off schedule one time and getting them into a 3rd and long, a definite play action pass situation, and then you've switched the advantage to the defense, in my opinion. Which brings me to the last part of defending them is the play action passes, and it again comes down to keying, reading your key, being disciplined with your eyes. So the important part of our reads, we don't expect our inside linebackers to ever get involved in the play action passes against full house T teams, just because we've got them committed to what their guards do. They're not going to. The T teams are also smart. They don't need to stress the inside linebackers much more with what they're doing. And most of their routes end up being away from the inside linebackers, where they're trying to take advantage of either your corners or safeties, cheating the play, cheating the run plays a little bit and putting those guys in binds. So I know a lot of teams play cover 3 against full house T. They play from a 1 high structure. We play from that 2 high structure, again, primarily because it lets us devote our corner to playing cutback when he gets flow away from him against run plays. And then play side, they're keying that halfback all the time. That halfback, that release by that halfback's just a little bit wider on the pass plays. If you study a T team and you're really doing a good job with your 6 or 9 technique play on that tight end, controlling that tight end's release, the corner can distinguish, hey, that halfback is a solid 3 yards wider than normal. He's not going anywhere near where he's trying to kick out or log that 6 or 9 technique. That corner is going to sink for depth, and then he'll play the flats once the ball actually gets thrown out there. So he's sinking for depth, and this really kind of carries over to what we do with our normal 2-read cover 4 or quarters type stuff that we do. He's going to sink for depth. He's going to play underneath wherever the flag route is, whether it's the halfback running the flag route or the tight end running that flag route. And then again, when the ball gets thrown to the flats, he'll come up and leverage it. The T teams are not calling their pass to throw the ball to the flats a bunch of times. They're trying to get that big play action pass that is a touchdown on that flag route, whoever's running that flag route. So until they get down by the end zone, we're not really worried about them completing that pass to the flats over and over again, because they're not going to call it that much. And then our safety is keying that tight end. If the tight end gets a vertical release, he's matching that with inside leverage, trying to stay on top of it. The one thing they do on their switch pass, which is probably a little bit more challenging read for our safeties, and we definitely rep it more in our perimeter practice periods, is that the tight end will come down, he'll slam the inside linebacker, and then he'll pivot and run an arrow out to the flats. Well, that's really the cornerback's responsibility in cover 2 with the flats. So our safety gets that down block. He's going to be patient, flat foot reading, and he's going to get his eyes to the next thread out, which ends up being that halfback on that flag route, which takes a little bit more eye discipline and whatnot, but he's looking to match that deep half threat, which is that flag route. And our corners have done a good job of understanding, find some work, match the flats, come up late, wait until the ball actually gets thrown out there. And the big thing is, I think it's always about this on defense. It's let's get the offense to be predictable. When the T gets to 3rd or 4th and long, actually the biggest thing I'm worried about in that situation is a trap play. That's probably their best play a lot of times on a 3rd or 4th and long, because your guys are thinking, all right, pass rush time. And so the front's still playing all of the run game to me on 3rd or 4th and long. If they're staying in their true full house T, the front and the linebackers are all fit in the run game. They'll get out late to the pass game and help a little bit. Our corner needs to be playing that flag, play underneath the flag, attack the flats once the ball's thrown. And we've almost come up with some picks with that philosophy. Been quite successful, all things considered, just because we're getting the T teams that we see into a situation where we know when they're going to pass for the most part, because we're taking care of business on 1st and 2nd down where they're trying to establish the run game and really set up the play action pass. So I guess that's how we go about trying to defend it, Coach.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. Some of the questions I write down, you answer them as you go on. That's why I kept my mouth shut.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to look at it from a defensive line perspective, because coaching on defense before, it's a lot of technique, but has there been times where you kind of scrape the technique and tell your guys to bear crawl essentially to those old linemen, like, we're going to clog it up, make them bounce to the outside? Now, not necessarily power T, but like wing T teams, as defensive coaches, we've had the D linemen just say, screw it, you're going to bear crawl, we're going to bounce to the outside, get our backers involved.
If a couple previous stops I was at, they would from time to time, they would end up doing stuff like that where, oh, my bad. Stop. Here we go. A couple previous stops I was at, they would do that with the defensive line, and to me, you're not, like, a bear crawling defensive lineman is still trappable to me. I played in a T system as a high schooler. A handful of my first 5 years coaching, I coached in a veer option offense, and they had trap as a complement to get some misdirection. Instead of running inside veer, they'd have trap go away from the side that veer was faking out. And if we got a bear crawling offensive lineman, I mean, you almost don't have to trap him. He can't redirect to get down inside where the trap's going to hit in the A gaps to get there. So it's not something that I've ever coached willingly, I guess. You know, if a coach tells me I'm doing it, or a defense coordinator I'm working for has told me to do that with the defensive line, I've done that, and I think it can have success because, like you said, you're gonna keep your linebackers clean, but like trap could still hit in that situation. So if I really want the ball going to the perimeter, and I want the entire defense to know the ball's going to the perimeter, and to kind of have that philosophy of keep the linebackers clean, we'll call a squeeze, where our 9 techniques or 6 techniques, they're going to rip inside the tight end, and their landmark is to get their hands to strike the outside half of the offensive tackle. And then our 4 techniques, 5 techniques, those guys are going to rip inside the offensive tackle. Their landmark, they're trying to strike the outside half of the guard. And that way we're clogging up both B gaps, both C gaps. And the nice thing about that, if they come to trap us, we're going to be on an angle already to take that trap on and be inside of it. If we're on the backside of the play and we get a polar, we're going to run it down. Like that's our philosophy. If we're on the backside, our kids have gotten really, really good at that. I could share some film of that maybe afterwards, but we've had an outside linebacker. His name was Jermaine Smith. Tough kid, probably the most gifted athletically kid we have. Maybe a little slower with his reads, but he understood when he got that squeeze call. He didn't fall for the fake of the halfback after 2 weeks of practicing against it, because we also played a pretty good team called Saugatuck up here, coached by Bill Dunn. They happened to be a state runner-up, and they beat us 34-27. And that game is probably why we pitched a shutout 2 weeks later, is because our kids learned from some mistakes in that game. And from those 2 weeks of practice, he knew if that tight end's pulling and I'm on a squeeze, I'm just going to keep on following him. I'm going to make the tackle on the other side because no one's blocking. They're counting on a halfback fake to block me. If I ignore that, I trust it. I'm a great football player. I go run it down. I'm going to tackle it for 2 or 3 yard losses. And he tackled, I think, 2 counters from behind when we played Constantine, just because he trusted that key, and that's what that squeeze call does. It keeps our guys alive. There's maybe if we get guys that just aren't able to aren't gifted enough, you know, maybe that's something I guess I'd consider, but it lets our guys still have a chance of making a tackle up front while doing their job of canceling the inside gaps. So I'd go with that squeeze call as opposed to the bear crawl.
Yeah, my first time coaching defense, I think it was our wing T team, and about the third quarter, they were all getting frustrated, and we just kind of said, screw it, let's have them do this. And so I always wonder if any other coach thought as dumb as we did and was like, let's just have them bear crawl and clog it up. And because we ran a 3-4 as well and get those backers to go make the play. If they make a 2 yard gain, it's better than a 4 yard gain, in our opinion. So I just want to forget other people thought as stupid as we were thinking during that time.
Well, mid game, I mean, if mid game, you do whatever you have to do to try and find a way to make things. We've taken our big 300-pound nose against Delton Kellogg. They typically run way more power than trap. That's what they hang their hat on a little bit more. And our JV head coach told the head coach at halftime, hey, they're running C gap. Why don't we park 300 pounds in C gap and let him take on that? They have a tight end that's probably gonna go on and play some D1 ball, which is I mean that's that's a big time mismatch to some extent at our level of high school ball, where our school's about 400 kids. So you get a D1 guy on the field, that's a game changer. Well, the kid that was supposed to play offensive tackle all week, he slid out, and he's playing tight end when he's wearing number 87 instead of number 72 when we show up to the game. And our guy at 5 technique was probably outweighed by about 20 pounds, and our kid, that outside linebacker that came, I mean, when he got base block, he did his job. He ate up the block of the best player on the other team, but he wasn't making a tackle all night. And when we moved that bigger kid, our nose out to that C gap, that slowed down their power game, because they demanded a double team. They couldn't single block our single block him. They had to double.
So I can't remember if you said this at the beginning or not. Do you ever see spread teams play any spread teams, or is it always under center teams? And if you do play any spread teams, which one is harder to defend, your power tees or the spread game?
I don't. A spread team with a quarterback that can sling it, and then they still have a resemblance of a spread game, a run game. I mean, that's a pain in the butt, because, like, to me, you're a little better against the run game when you're not bringing a bunch of pass rushers, where you're letting your guys read keys and pursue and fit. We can always have, if we're as a 3-4, if we're only rushing 3, we always have guys in great position to leverage whatever the run game is based off their key, and have a guy, our outside linebacker on the backside, in position to play cutback and anything that would crease us a little bit, kind of like our corners do against the T. But if they can throw it, you're not getting a pass rush with just 3 guys. So now you got to bring the 4th and a 5th guy, and now they can get situations where they can crease your run game a little bit. I think that it's easier to stay disciplined with your keys against that spread team to some extent. It's way harder to see the differences and the subtle adjustments to blocking schemes that team, that double wing team, or a full house T or wing T, they're all their plays, their different plays are making, instead of trapping the 3 technique, we're going to trap a 5 technique, and it's real subtle things like that sometimes even as the coach, you're not noticing it until the next day on film against those guys. Whereas a spread team, you see what the problem is, because it's just the guys are more isolated, and I think it's a little easier to have eye discipline against that spread team. So I guess I want to play the offense that has the least amount of threats.
Right. I get in debates on, because I'm a spread guy, but I'll spread you out to run the ball or whatever. I'm not the guy that's going to throw it any time. So I get not arguments with debates like, why? If you guys listen to the podcast later, I ask coaches why the wing tee, and they try to convince me. I'm still not convinced. I'm still a spread guy. I'm still going to spread you out. Well, Coach, I took a lot of your time, so that's all my questions. Any final thoughts from you? I always ask Coach any final thoughts, anything they want to say or promote or anything like that.
No, subscribe to, follow Coach on Spotify. I've enjoyed. I've listened to 2 of his previous shows and enjoy. It's good stuff to ride around in the car. Way better than listening to politics and heck, sports radio is turned into that to some extent, unfortunately. So you're a football coach. You want to just listen about football. Check out Coach here. Follow me at Coach Klee on Twitter. Exactly how you would think it'd be spelled. Check out my YouTube channel if you are curious. I do talk about defending, just playing defense in general from a 3-4, and being able to be flexible and go from defending full house T and 32 personnel one week to getting either 10 or 11 personnel and gun and all the things that a spread team does. And go over some of that stuff on my YouTube channel, and just love to talk ball, because it gives all of us coaches, especially in the current situation, a chance to continue to grow and try to improve and make sure that we're preparing ourselves to be as effective as possible of coaching the game of football with the guys that we're going to see in the spring, for guys like us in Michigan, Illinois. So that way the game side of things is just a small part, so we can be focusing over the next few months of being, you know, the coach that's there for them all the time, not just during football season. And that's what I think the next couple months for us is really going to be about. It's seeing those guys in school, hopefully, and just being in contact with them and keeping them positive and all that stuff. So if you're more confident as a coach with the X's and O's side, you're going to be able to devote more time to the more important side, which is the relationship with all those guys that you're coaching and the coaches you're coaching with.
Well said. So I will put coach's information when I get this posted on the podcast or YouTube. I'll put everything down there. You guys can go follow them, check them out on YouTube. I'm slowly checking it out. There's a lot of coaches that have given me their stuff. I'm checking it out. So guys, thanks for listening, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Everyone stay safe, and thanks for listening.